Okay, we should be live. Let me see. What's up, Val? What's up, something? Let me just check the health of the stream here. Okay, we should be live. Now, guys, please let me know if it starts jerking around again, and then what I'll do is I'll just go to StreamYard, because last time I tried OBS, there was a conflict with my stream key, and I had to fix it in the background and make it dedicated because it was conflicting between one stream key and the other for some reason, which never happened before. So if you see any kind of bad stuff going on, let me know if you got a 5x5 right now. It should be, because it was conflict. It should be okay right now. It should be okay. I cannot stand technical difficulties. And one thing I can't, hey, what's up, Standing Tall 710? I can't stand telling somebody I'm going to do something and not do it. Like I was supposed to go live at 6:30, at 6:36. In my mind, there's no excuse for that. So at the last minute when I go live and it doesn't work, it just kind of irritates me to no end. It says I have an excellent connection. Let's hope it stays healthy. The stream stays healthy. I want to talk about a couple things before we talk about the main event. And that main event is this right here. Thanks to Jersey Watcher, we have some further evidence of what we've been talking about. And that is that cops are not our friends, generally speaking. And I think we can generalize that. Also, there were a lot of requests for a brand new design, and we've come through for you. This is a brand new original design. It's 3 things you don't mess with: my family, my freedom, and my guns. If you guys come up with another design that you want to see, we can create that. And that is in the store right now. I've put the link and pinned it at the top of the chat. We're going to go ahead and get into this. Let me find my, wow, that's weird. All right. What I want to real quickly touch on a couple things before we get into our main event. And I'm going to try to keep my mind and my eye on the chat room while we're going through this. So I'm going to try to multitask and get through this as quickly as possible. Let me go over to this screen right here. So right here we have, let me close that out. All right. I don't know if you guys saw this. A couple of channels have dealt with this. One of them was Leto's Law and Guns and Gadgets. I want to lightly touch on this and just remind you that anytime you are online, you are being watched by the CIA, the FBI, the NSA, and you can thank George Bush for that. The Unpatriotic Patriot Act is still in effect and has been since October of 2001. And that was after that incident that happened in September of 2001 that select YouTube channels cannot talk about. If you watch certain YouTube videos, says Mashable, and this is also reported by Forbes, investigators demanded your ID from Google. Shared YouTube data prompts civil liberties worries. And it says, in now unsealed court documents reviewed by Forbes, Google was ordered to hand over the names, addresses, phone numbers, and user activity of YouTube accounts and IP addresses that watched select YouTube videos. We already know this, guys. We know this from Edward Snowden's revelation of the Prism and all the things that the intelligence agencies have been involved in spying on Americans through the Unpatriotic Patriot Act. We already know that we've lost our First and Fourth Amendment rights, specifically our Fourth Amendment rights. When we go through airports anywhere in the country, you're still required to, unless you get the TSA preferred premium, you have to take your shoes off. You got to take your belt off. You got to empty your bag. You got to take out your laptop. If you have anything over 3 ounces of liquid, shampoo or conditioner, that goes in the bin over there. So we already know that we're under the Unpatriotic Patriot Act, and you have to understand, even if you use a VPN, a virtual private network, you are being watched. You're being categorized. You're being logged. You're being data mined. Your IP address is being viewed by somebody somewhere in the ether, and it's not for your benefit. It says this is a larger part of a criminal investigation by federal investigators. Federal investigators who are part of the federal organized crime ring, which we're going to talk about in a second. The videos were sent by undercover police to a suspected cryptocurrency launderer under the username, this one right here. I'm not going to mention it. I don't want to trip off any algorithms, but when I think of laundering and you think of laundering, do you have to go beyond, say, the Pentagon? I would say Washington's District of Criminals are the kingpins of modern day money laundering. They're always looking up for reasons to create policies, to make laws, to move the military industrial complex here and yon so that they can launder more tax cattle money. And all I have to think about is Ukraine. Think of Ukraine as a massive money laundering scheme. In the opinion of some, not necessarily my opinion. And when you talk about money laundering, you're talking about the government getting nervous that there could be a competitive currency that they don't want in the market, because we know one thing that the government is good at, besides breaking your legs, handing you a taxpayer-funded crutch and saying, see, if it weren't for the government, you wouldn't be able to walk. One thing that they're good at is eliminating competition. That's why they started the war on drugs. And now we've got, what did we get? We got the fentanyl crisis now. We have the fentanyl crisis going on under the umbrella of the 50-year Nixon enforced war on drugs, which isn't a war on drugs. It's a war on people. It's so that the big pharma industrial complex in the 1980s could get a broad brush liability shield from Reagan, to where if they create products that harm people, well, they're not going to be held liable. They're worried about drug dealers. If they're so worried about drug dealers, why aren't they worried about the people who created the opioid crisis, which is the American doctors in concert with the big pharma industrial complex, in concert with the Rite Aids, the Walgreens, the Walmarts? Yeah, they don't care about distribution of drugs. They just don't want you distributing them. Just like back in alcohol prohibition, they didn't want you to distribute and transport and possess alcohol. They wanted to be the distributors and transporters of alcohol. So they criminalized you so that they could actually increase their profit potential. And that's what gave rise to, the Al Capones of this world. In conversations with the Bitcoin trader, investigators set links to public YouTube tutorials on mapping via drones and augmented reality software, according to Forbes. The videos were watched more than 30,000 times, presumably by thousands of users unrelated to the case. So we're talking about a potential tens of thousands of Americans that got spied on by the intelligence agencies through this dragnet to try to uncover suspected cryptocurrency launderers. Don't think for a second that you're free on the internet. When you log in, somebody's looking over your shoulder and they know what you logged in on, and they're data mining you and they're collecting your search history. The next thing I wanted to talk about was this attorney. I don't want anybody to be under the impression that I'm against this guy from my last video. There are a couple of things that I question as to what he said, and I even voiced that down here in the comments. And I'm gonna refresh this page and look back at the comments. But I think that he appears competent to me. Okay, he appears to know what he's talking about. And while I don't know if he's being biased or unbiased, I don't know to what extent he's tied into the system, but he claims underneath this video that he produced called "Lawyer Gives a Roadmap for Chile de Castro to Overturn His Conviction Appeal, the Odds Are Low." He says, I just want to quote underneath his video, "For the appellate work I've handled on First Amendment cases, which is the crux of Chile's defense, I am unbeaten in the appellate courts." That's a pretty good record, because it looks like the bar set for granting an appeal is high. And it looks like the people that would grant it, they don't appear reasonable to me. They don't appear to be people who are interested in tipping the scales in the favor of justice. That's just my opinion. And my view of this, of legalese, is quite limited. And there are stockpiles of ignorance in my mind that need to be cleared out daily. So I listen to what people like this say and I consider it. And then he says he's 13-1 in First Amendment cases overall. And then he says, I have considerable experience in this arena, even recently defeating a petition before the California Supreme Court and getting 3 defendants immediately dismissed from a lawsuit after filing 3 anti-SLAPP motions. Now, because I have mountains of ignorance, I had to look up what an anti-SLAPP motion was. And apparently anti-SLAPP laws are meant to provide a remedy to SLAPP suits. What is a SLAPP suit? It's a strategic lawsuit against public participation. They have become all too common tool for intimidating and silencing criticism through expensive, baseless legal proceedings. In other words, we, the legal people, have deep pockets. You don't. We recognize that. We're going to capitalize on and exploit that. That's what the anti-SLAPP laws, from my understanding, is to keep that kind of thing from happening. It gets a little bit more specific. It says anti-SLAPP laws are intended to prevent people from using courts and potential threats of a lawsuit to intimidate people who are exercising their First Amendment rights. In terms of reporting, news organizations and individual journalists can use anti-SLAPP statutes to protect themselves from the financial threat of a groundless defamation case brought by a subject of an enterprise or investigative story. So when he says, I have considerable experience in this arena, even recently defeating a petition before the California Supreme Court and getting 3 defendants immediately dismissed from a lawsuit after filing 3 anti-SLAPP motions. That sounds pretty good to me. Let me refresh this page because he does respond to one of my comments, or a comment that I left under his video. I just said Zimmerman, that's Ann Zimmerman, the judge who gave Chile 180 days, showed her biased hand. She let her emotions get the best of her, ignored Bork's lies, that's Officer Bork, and pinned everything on officer safety. And they often do, because it's enigmatic. In my opinion, it's subjective. It's enigmatic. Oh God, our officer was scared. We don't want that. You got to go to jail, sir. What the frick? Let me make sure my stream health is okay. Is it okay, guys? It still says excellent connection. Looks like the problem has been fixed. So I really appreciate it. Ann Zimmerman is a jaywalker. I heard people are digging up some dirt on her, so I don't know. We may look at that in a future video. And then I say, yes, Chile should have kept his mouth shut. And guess what, guys? I don't care what you think of the guy. He should have kept his mouth shut. You know what's interesting about this whole thing? I don't know. I'm not going to say that. He should have just kept his mouth shut. Chile admits he should have kept his mouth shut. He should have let the lawyer do his job, and he probably wouldn't be sitting in jail today. We already know about the fragile egos of authoritarian psychopathic misfits, parasitic misfits who live off the system. When you're looking at it, no matter what people think, when you're looking at a judge, they're supposed to be public servants. When you're looking at a law enforcer, they're supposed to be public servants. This means that they are welfare recipients. They're supposed to be benefiting you, but you and I are benefiting them when they're fleecing us through taxation. They are supposed to be the trustees who are benefiting the rest of us. We're supposed to be the beneficiaries of that trust. It ain't happening. That's not what's going on. They've actually set up an entire thing that we can rightly label as the prison industrial complex so that they can have an additional slave class in society. There's the free slave class that they get to fleece, and then there's the actual slave class in prison doing all this work or just sitting there rotting for no reason. I mean, think about this. Chile and Hendry and Flex Your Freedoms are in jail, and they didn't harm a soul. They're not there because they created a victim or stole property or damaged property and didn't pay for it. They're there because they hurt an authoritarian psychopath's feelings. It went through the court, and the psychopath who wore the robe actually decided, yeah, our law enforcement psychopaths are right. You shouldn't have hurt their feelings, and you shouldn't have made them feel unsafe. They said you made them feel unsafe, and we believe them, and you should never do that again. And now they set all this precedence, and now we have court case after court case of innocent person after innocent person going to jail, not because they committed a crime, i.e. left a victim, but because they hurt some psychopath's feelings. Say, hey, I'm busy power tripping. You know what? You obstructed my ability to power trip. You obstructed my ability to conduct this roadside extortion, road piracy operation. That's what it is. That's what every traffic stop is. That's what traffic law is contingent on. It's contingent on a corporation. It's a corporate policy. It's a revenue generating scheme to separate you. It's just one more chance for the state to separate you from your money, which is the product of your time and laboring energies, which means they can determine the value of your time and laboring energies, just like the Federal Reserve can, just like the IRS can. How do we decouple from this? I wonder how we decouple from this situation. Is it a conspiracy theory? I don't know. Maybe our rights don't end where cops' fears begin. Maybe that coffee mug is right. I don't know. It's not even... There we go. It's focusing now. So I just said, yes, Chili should have kept his mouth shut. Amen. And me should have been more prepared. No matter what me's excuses. Well, I thought Chili was going to take the reins. You're the lawyer. You're the one who I hear got $5,000. I'm serious. Michael Me, you should give the money back. You did I don't care what your track record is. In this case right here, you did a horrible job. What the flip? And if you weren't alpha enough to put down Chili's alphaness or whatever, then maybe you shouldn't have taken him on as a client. You need somebody strong to go to bat, even if it takes ripping off your suit jacket, standing up on the desk and saying, look, this ain't right. This is not right. Not going to tolerate this. Ain't going to happen on my watch. I mean, I am going to exhaust every bit of energy I can because I know my client is innocent. There's no victim. The state can't be a victim in this. There was no officer safety issue. It's obvious Bork wasn't fearing for his life. It's obvious based on the disposition of the driver, she wasn't scared for her life. So you're making all this stuff up. You guys are being ridiculous. Why is it ringing like this? What is going on? I need to get rid of that. Hold on a second, guys. This is bothering me. Get rid of the alert box. Get rid of it. Done. Wait a second. Wait, why is it going? All right, got rid of the alert box. That should do it. That should do it. There shouldn't be any. All right, no more dinging, hopefully. So yeah, broad daylight. Bork says he was, oh, well, it's all an officer safety issue. He should have, do you realize if he's not back 21 feet, he could close the gap really, really quickly and hurt me? Oh my God, I'm going to be hurt. Man, with all these officers out there concerned for their safety and taking all these precautions where they will be safe and they have unlimited resources and all this training, Kevlar vests and a utility belt with a gun and a taser and mace and all this kind of stuff and a patrol cruiser and everything's being recorded, you would think that would be the safe. Oh, wait a second. You would think it would be the safest. It is. Law enforcement is one of the safest professions. If you look at it in America, it's not even in the top 10. Last I checked, it wasn't even in the top 15 of dangerous professions. Can you imagine being a logger going, I'm fearing for my safety? Or being on the most dangerous catch and all the guys on the boat, chewing their fingernails going, I hope I don't get dragged overboard today. You don't ever see anybody going, well, it was an issue of fisherman safety. It was an issue of logger safety. It was an issue of lineman safety. Ain't nobody out there talking about their safety but cops. You don't see firefighters going, well, I didn't go into the building because, frankly, it was an issue of firefighter safety. No, nobody's doing that in any other profession that I've ever seen. Does that mean there's not fear when that logger is, trying to unstick a log jam, or a lineman is 30 feet, 40 feet, 50 feet up on a cracked and splintering pole that could crack at any moment? No, I'm not saying there's not fear, but you never hear them articulate, I was fearing for my life, man. I had to chop that pole down. I couldn't go out on the deck of that boat and reel in those lobsters, that cage of lobsters, because I was so scared. They're killing people who pull out a knife when there's a car door and a rolled up window in between them. Well, I thought he had a gun. No, you didn't. Philip Brailsford did not think for a moment that Daniel Shaver had a gun. I don't think that cop, what was his name? Geronimo Jimenez, who offed Philando Castile. I don't think for a moment that he thought that Philando Castile had a gun after he gave Philando Castile the command, yeah, let me see your CCW. Zimmerman gets no points for not holding DeCastro in contempt, and Houston versus Hill still applies. Remember, in Houston versus Hill, there was actually a city ordinance saying that Roy Hill couldn't do the very thing that he was doing. There was a city ordinance. It was a city regulation or law prohibiting Roy Hill from doing what he did. And the Supreme Court in that case said, nope, that's a violation of the First Amendment. Roy Hill did worse, and I'm putting this in quotes, guys. Roy Hill in Houston versus Hill did worse than Chili DeCastro did in Nevada. And yet, and the Supreme Court testified to that. So I got a question for you, Michael Mee. Why didn't you at least use Houston versus Hill? It was applicable, in my opinion. You know, hey, nothing that I say, by the way, is legal advice, and it should not be construed as legal advice. Oh, I see what the beeps were. Sorry, guys. Brett Rhea gifted 10 Here's the Deal memberships, and it looks like you did it twice. Thank you, Brett. You're awesome, man. Thank you. I appreciate that. I said no crime was committed, no law was broken, no victim was harmed. There was no lawful order, and there was no 21-foot rule. This is clear as day, guys. Zimmerman ruled on emotion. She did not rule on law. There was no proof that there was a lawful order. If there was proof that there was a lawful order, then you would have to substantiate it by saying that there was a law that order was contingent on, and I haven't seen it. And if it was there, they would have said it. Oh, yeah, it was this law right here. Well, no, there's no 21-foot rule. Oh, there's a lawful order because a cop in a uniform said it. A human being dressed in a costume with a badge said blah, 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 and therefore that's a lawful. Really? So maybe he can tell you to wash your car. Hey, come over here and wash my car. Hey, I need you to crawl on your knees back to your car. That's a lawful order because a cop said it. Hey, I need you to step back. Why not? Why 21 feet, Bork? Why not 50 feet? Why not 121 feet? I mean, like, really, where does the nonsense stop? This is my traffic stop. Well, no, it's not. No, it's not. Really isn't. I mean, we can choose to live. Man, I'm getting hot. We can choose to live in the land of truth, or we can choose to live in the land of fables. Which one do you want to live in? Truth will always be treason in the empire of lies. Truth is the new hate speech. Truth is always the first casualty in every war, including the information war. This is how bad things are getting here. So we got to be honest with, yeah, there might be legal cases, there might be law, there might be Supreme Court precedent, but does it square with justice? Does it square with truth? Does it square with Black's Law fourth edition dictionary of what a crime actually is? Can you really have crime if there is no victim? And can the state be a victim? If the state can be a victim, how can a non-person corporate entity be victimized by a flesh and blood man or woman? These are just, I don't have a high IQ. I am not extremely articulate. All I know is I believe I know what truth and I know what justice is. Brett, you're killing me, man. Brett gifts another 10 Here's the Deal memberships. People are snatching them up left and right. Brett, you're a rock star, man. I appreciate that. So I want to show you that Patrick Darcy wrote me back. Oh, he wrote me back again too. Oh, cool. Here, let me see. Let me expand this. Can I expand this? Yeah, let me expand this. This lawyer actually seems like a likable guy. He seems rational. In my opinion, he seems like he wants to be unbiased, so I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. So what he said to my post is, the big constitutional questions I see that aid Chile on appeal are that, even though the laws are constitutional per the Nevada Supreme Court, it cannot be applied in a consistent fashion, and that arbitrariness is its downfall. I would agree. If you have arbitrary standards, first of all, I think arbitrary standards, I don't think you can have arbitrary end standards. I think that's an oxymoron, like military intelligence or airline food or tight slacks or deafening silence. So I think that's an oxymoron, but I totally agree with him in that if you have arbitrariness and inconsistency in statutes, that is the Achilles heel of that argument, or at least it should. I think it should be. If you're inconsistent and undirected and arbitrary in your edicts, how can anything stick? It can't. It's like uncooked spaghetti. It's not sticking to the wall. I also showed the cases where Nevada broke with the Ninth Circuit, thus putting the statutes into conflict and opening up grounds for a federal appeal. I want to see that. The cops said that Chile was charged with obstructing after just 15 to 20 seconds. And that's true. That's ridiculous to give somebody a criminal record for just that brief amount of time. For some, a cop may wait a few minutes and a person who obstructs for 15 to 20 seconds never gets charged. This leads to different outcomes for different persons and makes a criminal statute void on its face, a fundamental aspect in equal application. Failing that, the statute is void. And giving a lawful order, and he did, so I would ask Patrick, what lawful order did Bork give? What law was it contingent upon? Because if you give a lawful order, there has to be a law that order was based on. If there is no law and an order is given, then it can only be called an arbitrary order. It can't be a lawful order. And then if there was a lawful order, is that law in line with the Constitution? Like in Houston versus Hill, there was an ordinance. There was a Houston city ordinance that said that Roy Hill couldn't do what he did. So there was that. And then the lower courts deemed that as, hey, that's a violation of our laws. But the Supreme Court overturned that and said, no, that your law is repugnant to the Constitution. You can't do that. The supreme law of the land is supposed to be the Constitution, not Houston's ordinance that Roy Hill can't do the very thing that he did. It seems logical. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. How could you be so wrong, Brian? How could you be so wrong so often? What's going on with you? And giving a lawful order, and he did. I really question that. I haven't seen it. I don't see evidence for any kind of lawful order. If there was, I really want to talk to Patrick about this. He also didn't warn the minimum distance Chile needed to even understand what would be a violation. I agree. Once a person understands how the Constitution is interpreted, the attack becomes obvious. If he argues a rational basis test, he loses. He must move this to a strict scrutiny, giving the government the least latitude on appeal. I'm down with that. You don't want to give the government any kind of wiggle room if you're going to appeal a case. And when you appeal a case, my understanding is you're not opening up evidence. You're not asking the question, did this cop lie? You're not asking the question, hey, what are the facts of the case? You're just saying, hey, was the judgment meted out properly? How was this case handled? Is there a mishandling of the case? That's what the appeals process, I understand. That's my understanding of what the appeals process is. Finally, another issue on appeal is that the judge didn't read Mee's case authority and ruled against Chile anyway. Remember, I'm not pro or anti-Chile. I'm pro-Constitution. By the way, I'm not a constitutionalist. I'm gonna do what is rightist. It's always wrong to initiate unjust force and violence on peaceful people who haven't done anything wrong. I am pro, no man has a higher claim over your life and property than you. It's wrong to steal. It's wrong to kill. It's wrong to harm. It's wrong to threaten. It's wrong to damage property and not pay for it. And when you've done those things, you've created a victim, i.e. you've committed a crime. So when the Constitution says, for example, what would I be against in the Constitution? Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes. If taxes is actually armed robbery, which would be extortion, then I would be against Congress shall have the power to commit armed robbery, if that's what it is. So that's why I would not call myself a constitutionalist, because there's a great many things that if you look at in the Constitution, it's like consent of the governed. I know that's outside of the Constitution, but the Constitution was built on the Declaration of Independence, and this consent of the governed. Well, if governed means controlled, If governo mentis means to control the mind or mind control, and let's get mind out of it. Government means to control somebody against their will without their consent because the people in government think it would be good for them and for society. Well, what if it's not good for society? Like prohibition showed itself to be not good for society, or Executive Order 6102. You're gonna throw somebody in jail if you catch them owning gold. FDR, really? And a plethora of other, the war on drugs, the Patriot Act, all this unconstitutional, nasty stuff that completely goes against individual and collective rights, frankly. So it says, I'm pro-Constitution. I have argued against these statutes and provided the authority in other videos. Chile gets on my radar because these are constitutional questions. Arguments on appeal regarding the First Amendment, and I've done 5 and won them all, is a very different form of argument. You must find errors that affected the trial that do not involve weighing evidence or whether a witness lied. That's what appeals is. That's what the appellate court is. That's what the appeals process is. It's not opening up the evidence of the court case and determining what's right and what's wrong. It's basically, how was the trial conducted? How was the trial conducted? And was misconduct, what was the final outcome of the trial based on misconduct in the trial? Bad representation, or the judge didn't weigh evidence or whatever. And that's just that's my limited understanding. So I just said I appreciate you weighing in on this and responding. I'm also grateful for the education regarding arguing on appeal, which many are ignorant of. I was extremely ignorant, I must say, in full disclosure. So now I understand the appeals process a little bit better. It is my hope that you are truly unbiased in this, but I can't help but wonder why you said, quote, and this is an exact quote of his, he would have had a lot of fun cross-examining Chile. Why would he have had fun with that and not have fun cross-examining Bork? I would have loved, like I said in my last video, I would have loved to cross-examine Bork. Officer Bork, was it daylight when you conducted your traffic stop? Yes. Do you feel less safe or more safe in the daylight versus the night at the night? Now, when the man, Chile de Castro, approached you with his video camera clearly, what part of that scared you, sir? At what point will you be less scared? Will it be at 15 feet? Will it be at 21 feet? Will it be at 25 feet? Are you better off if it's 50 feet? Do you realize that, the further back you go, the less audio you'll get and the less video clarity you'll get, and the resolution will be horrible. And basically it's almost like prior restraint. It's almost like you're keeping him from being the press that we all have the fundamental unalienable right to be. Doesn't it? Doesn't that make sense to you, Officer Bork? So what's more important, your safety or the exercise of American rights? What are you really there for? What are you scared of? Were you going to do something bad to that driver? I mean, you're operating under traffic code and not constitutional law at a traffic stop, right? I mean, you said that the person's license plate was expired. That's just benefiting the state. So basically, you're a state revenue agent. And that's what you're operating at. And you call it your duty. Isn't it really your duty to protect and serve the people who are expecting you to protect? How are you protecting that driver because there wasn't a tag on that piece of metal on the back of her car? Yeah, cross-examining would have been fun, but I don't think the prosecution, and I definitely don't think the judge would welcome that kind of line of questioning because you're a conspiracy theorist if you bring up those kind of things. That everybody accepts as normal. Hey, if everybody accepts it as normal, then it's right to do, right? Hey, listen, it's no good measure of good mental health to be considered well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. We overall, generally speaking, have a profoundly sick society who believes a mountain, I mean an Everest size mountain of lies every single day. And they were taught to us from the time we were little bitty kids all the way through the public fool indoctrination program, the 15,000 hour government indoctrination program called the public fool system. And we believe so many freaking lies. Like, the first lie is that this is actually money. This is money. No, it's used as money. It's used as a unit of exchange, and it can be considered money. But more importantly, to understand is its currency. And more specifically, it is a Federal Reserve note. Guaranteed for all debts, public and private. This can be used as money, but it is not in and of itself money. You know what the Constitution says money is? Only gold and silver. But they had to get rid of the gold standard back in 1971. Tricky Dick, eh? We're going to suspend temporarily the convertibility of gold and other precious metals. We're going to temporarily suspend the convertibility. That's a 5-decade temporary. But then nothing is so permanent as a temporary government program, huh? I digress. Or do I? Or do I digress? Or is all this stuff like interlaced? It's like this. It's this one big, deceptive, movable anthill. It just keeps on moving. You can knock it down one day and then it appears somewhere else. And then it appears somewhere else. And you got to deal with it. So, when you cross-examine like that and you bring out all this obvious stuff of road piracy and corporate traffic law, and, you do have the fundamental right to travel. It is a fundamental right, not requiring licensing, registration, and forced insurances. Like one of those court cases says, hey, you can't use that right here because we got us some traffic law right here. And this traffic law applies to you. Well, guess what? Traffic law, practically speaking, trumps constitutional law. It's as clear and evident as the nose on your face. You don't have to be a lawyer. You don't have to have a bar card. You don't have to be a judge. You don't have to have a high IQ. All you got to do is face the facts and see what reality is. Oh, and follow the money. Follow the money. Hey, they're making money. These law enforcers who are supposed to be serving and protecting us, we're supposed to be benefiting by us giving them their trust, but they're actually being used as revenue generating tools to the tune of $6.2 billion every single year just for speeding tickets. Let that sink in. $6.2 billion a year. That's $11,734 every single minute of every single day in all 50 states. That is a revenue generating waterfall. It just keeps, it's like a geyser at Yellowstone. I don't know how it happens. It just keeps coming out of the ground. $6.2 billion. And that's just traffic tickets. That's just speeding tickets. We're not even we don't even add yet the $14.1 billion annually that comes from civil asset forfeiture, which every single sheriff under Jim Skinner, the National Sheriff's Association, signed onto and are against HR 1525 for. Civil asset forfeiture is literally legalized theft under the auspices of, we got to take care of the Mexican drug cartel. You want the Mexican drug cartels to run rampant and roughshod over all Americans? Well, if you don't, then you want to back us in civil asset forfeiture. It's just that the only problem with that is when you see victims of civil asset forfeiture, it's not the Mexican drug cartels. It's somebody like Stephen Lara, a veteran, Stephen Lara, driving from Texas to California to visit his daughters with his life savings of $87,000 in the trunk in the Nevada state. Oh, it's Nevada, of course. But it's not just Nevada, it's Tennessee, it's Oklahoma, it's Arkansas, it's California. But the Nevada state troopers seized his $87,000, not because Stephen Lara had done anything wrong, and not because he was pinned or charged with a crime, because he wasn't. It's because they suspected that money might be used in funding criminal activity. So they ran the dog, and of course, the dog is going to hit on the money. Why? Because 90 to 95% of all American currency has some amount of cocaine on it, according to many, many studies. So of course, they're going to hit on it, and they're going to use that as justification to take a poor man's life savings from him. Stephen Lara is not a part of the Mexican drug cartel. He's just a guy who wants to provide for his family and has his life savings in the car because he doesn't trust the banking system. That's not crazy. That's sanity. But the road pirates of the Nevada State Patrol are going to relieve him of that, 2 of which said that they were military vets as well. Hoorah. Thanks. Thanks, brothers. Look it up. Look up Stephen Lara, Nevada State Troopers civil asset forfeiture. By the way, he won the case because the ACLU got involved, and there was a national outcry against the Nevada State Police, patrol, the Nevada State Troopers. They got tens of thousands of negative comments saying, "You give that man's money back, you frickin' crooks." And because they're, the public relations guy said, "Hey, this ain't looking too good for us," they gave it back. Not because it was the right thing to do to give it back. It was the wrong thing to take in the first place, but the right thing would have been to give it back. They only gave it back because they got caught. They didn't give it back because they came to the realization, "Hey, what we're doing is wrong. Maybe we should stop this." So much criminality. Just bringing this back around, so much criminality, so many lies that if you did ask the question about universal, this corporate traffic law and the extortion of the American tax cattle under traffic law, and the fact that we lose all of our constitutional rights at a traffic stop, if you're not free to travel, you're not free to do anything. And if you try to pull away from that police officer, they will put the helicopters in the air. They will put the dogs on the ground. They will call for unlimited resources, and they will hunt you down. Because you left their traffic stop. So you ain't free to go. If you're not free to go, you don't have individual rights. Stop seeing land of the free, home of the brave. Were you saying that from the devil's advocate? I'm asking him if he would have loved to have cross-examined Chile, saying that from a devil's advocate position. I don't know. Maybe he wasn't. Maybe he was. Further, what lawful order was given by Bork? If there was a lawful order, what law was that order based on? Would you be willing to come on and do a live stream answering the questions and discussing, quote, this is his quote, "the cases where Nevada broke with the Ninth Circuit, thus putting the statute into conflict and opening up grounds for federal appeal? If so, contact me. My info is under all my vids." And it looks like he wrote back. He said, "I live for cross-examination. Same for the cop or anyone else. I roast them all. The cop said that he wasn't afraid of Chile, so the 21-foot rule, which nobody knew about, was irrelevant. Amen. How many times did he enforce that rule? Why isn't it policy?" Yeah, and this is all stuff that Michael Mee should have done. And I know this guy says Michael Mee is a good lawyer, and maybe he was on other cases, but on this right here, I mean, if it was a horse race, he came in dead. His name is Seabiscuit, and he came in dead last. Was that even turned over in discovery? If in the police report, then they needed to be ready for it. Chile didn't help himself. Amen. I totally agree, Patrick. I totally agree. He started out antagonizing the cop and was belligerent. I always say it. Don't fight the cops. Let the lawyers fight them. The odds favor the cop in the street, but not in the courtroom. That's probably true. That's probably true. He let one judge decide his fate and waived 2 constitutional rights, a 30-day trial and a jury trial. Big error. The longer the DA has to prepare, the worse your chances. Chile needed to case law on what constitutes a lawful order and grill the cop on that. No disagreement there. We went over this 7 to 10 videos ago. I mean, stay with the law. If they're going to go by law, here's what the Supreme Court said in this. Here's what the Supreme Court said in Rodriguez versus United States. Here's what the Supreme Court, and just keep on going down the line. And then slide that case law into your current predicament, and it looks like an easy victory. Nothing was said about it. The judge didn't review Mee's case authorities and ruled without looking at its applicability. The appeal will come down to waiver or invite error. I don't know the answer in Nevada as it isn't my jurisdiction. Evidence was just coming out without objection. Thank you for the offer, but I'm trying to stay neutral and I have declined all types of requests. This is just a hobby for me. Nowhere did I ever put him down. I'm focusing on the statute, not the person. I dislike lawyers who show up on TV and have a predetermined favoritism. They are just propagandists. I just showed that there is a way to defeat the very statutes that convicted him, but the odds are low given the limits on the appeal. Unfortunately, many people do not really understand that there are limits to the First Amendment or the nuances lawyers look for to win on procedural grounds. I don't think it's fair, Patrick. I don't think it's fair. And I would never have you come on a show and express any kind of bias. I mean, the reason you would come on a show is to show that you're not biased. So I don't understand that. You can be unbiased and appear on a show. It's like, hey, I'm unbiased. I don't have a dog in this fight, but let's look at the facts here. And let's look at the facts that the DA or the prosecuting attorney is looking at. Let's look at what Zimmerman might be looking at, and let's look at what the defense is looking at. I don't see how that's bias. I think that's a fair way to deal with a broad spectrum of many pieces and players playing in the same board game. So, and this idea of yelling fire in a crowded theater or bomb on an airplane, guys, you are as free to do that as you are to punch somebody in the nose. Your rights end where somebody else's nose begins. You don't have a right to put the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness of somebody else in jeopardy. That's not what speech is. Can speech be used to put a whole bunch of people into a whole bunch of jeopardy, knowing what the outcome might be? Crowded theater, oh my God, there's a bomb here on the plane, and everybody rushes. Now, of course, you would yell B-O-M-B if there was a B-O-M-B on the plane. We're not saying that. We're saying just somebody go, hey, let's do a social experiment. Let's see how these 250 people on this Boeing 737, or is it 120 people? Let's say it's 747. You got a 747 with about 200 people on there. Let's see how they're going to react if I yell this out and grab the mic and make it real official sounding. Yeah, you're putting life in jeopardy. That's not freedom of speech. And that's not saying, no, that is freedom of speech. It's just that proves that freedom of speech has its limits. No. Freedom of speech is freedom of speech that doesn't interfere with the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness of others. So I don't know how people can mix that. I completely disagree with that. Now, if you're looking at it a different way and I'm looking at it wrong, I definitely want to know about that. So he's not going to come on a live stream. That's fine. That's fine. All right, switching gears here. Let me go back to the chat and see what you guys are saying. What's up, Kyle? What's up, Dirty? What do we got here? Let me scroll up. By the way, if you want to give a super chat, it's better just to grab a shirt. A hard-hitting conversation starter shirt from the shirt store, or, through Cash App or whatever, and all those links are in the bottom. Because when you give a super chat, they take 40 or 50%. It's just an ungodly, crazy amount. I wanted to play this right here. This is dealing with slain NYPD officer Jonathan Diller. I'm not making, there's no, I don't look at this light. This to me is heavy. The end of a human life is horrible enough. But the end of a human life who has other human lives who depend on him, namely a 1-year-old son and a wife, and other family members who love him and will miss him, that is horrific. I would not ask for that. In the spirit of do to others what you would want done to you, I would not request that happen to anybody in life. So there's no rejoicing on this, but we got to tell the truth about what you're involved in when you're part of the NYPD. Got to tell the truth. Cannot whitewash it. Can't dull the edges on it. Got to keep them nice and razor sharp. Remember, truth is treason in the empire of lies. And the propagators, the continuous propagators of the empire of lies are local police forces who have shown themselves time after time to not be your friends. Listen to this.
Thank Bruce and all of the people that have worked so hard to make this area beautiful and safe. And this is what happened. Is such a sad event, such a horrible thing. And it's happening all too often. And we're just not going to let it happen. We just can't. 21 times arrested, this thug. And the person in the car with him was arrested.
Now we're talking about, if you're not familiar with what happened with NYPD officer Jonathan Diller, he and his partner pulled up to a car that was parked in a no parking zone. And for some reason or another, they told the passenger to get out of the vehicle. And I don't know why. I don't know why they would do that. Why wouldn't the cops just go, hey, you're in a no parking zone. You can't park here. Can you take off? I haven't seen any body cam evidence for what happened. I haven't seen any dash cam, and usually there's a reason they don't withhold that stuff, as they're trying to convince the general population that this Jonathan Diller is a hero somehow. It'd be like saying Muggsy and Luigi from the Al Capone cartel are heroes. They died in the line of duty. Oh yeah, what was the line of their duty? I'm breaking kneecaps and collecting rent from little old ladies and shopkeepers. He died in. Bugsy and Luigi and Marco died in the line of duty. Okay, I don't think there's going to be any tears shed in the Chicago neighborhood knowing that those three guys are gone. Okay, they were part of a crime syndicate. Can we say that it's any less of a crime syndicate given the Mullen Commission and the Knapp reports, the Knapp Commission reports in the 70s and the Mullen Commission back in the 90s? No, we can't. We can actually say that the NYPD would be synonymous with any kind of Chicago mafia, New Jersey, New York mafia. You know, the good guys.
Many times.
Oh, and by the way, Trump is for a federal immunity on police officers, in addition to the immunity in Terry v. Ohio and Pennsylvania versus Mims and all these court cases that support officer safety trumps individual rights. Trump is for an additional federal layer of immunity on all police in all departments across the country.
And they don't learn because they don't respect. They're not given the respect. The police are the greatest people we have. There's nothing and there's nobody like them, and this should never happen. I just visited.
The Mafia Crime Syndicate are the best people we have. I don't know what people got a problem with these guys or something.
Visited with a very beautiful wife that now doesn't have her husband.
That's sad.
Stephanie was just incredible. Their child, brand new, beautiful.
Appeal to emotion.
Baby. Sitting there innocent as can be, doesn't know how his life has been changed. But the Diller family you'll never be the same. You can never be the same. And we have to stop it. We have to stop it. We have to get back to law and order. We have to do a lot of things differently because this is not.
Whose law? No, I'm for order. I am for rules in society. But I am against the order that comes through the tunnel of psychopaths. I am against laws that take away rights and make the state money and become a power and wealth transfer machine. I'm against that. I am for order. I am for rules, but I'm against psychopathic rulers. Who wouldn't be? Do you want to be ruled by people who are more corrupt than the average person in society? I hope not. Remember, Trump is not only somebody who wants a federal blanket of immunity placed on all law enforcement officers. He's for, I like take the guns first, due process second. He's for federal red flag laws, the extreme risk protection orders that violates the Second Amendment. If somebody's against the Second Amendment in any way, shape, or form, if they are against the simple words of shall not be infringed, they are your mortal enemy. I don't care who they are, what they look like, what political party they're affiliated with. I don't care what color their skin is. They are your enemy. I don't care how nice they seem. I don't care if they come with a smile. Tyranny with a smile is still tyranny. Nice and cordial and professional tyranny is still nice, cordial, and professional evil. You can't whitewash it, man. You cannot. It's like trying to polish a turd. Go ahead, be my guest, try. That's pretty nasty and it ain't gonna work. Put all the perfume on that pig you want. He's still a barnyard sloppy pig.
This is happening too often. It's an honor to be here. And again, I want to just thank all of you folks for allowing this. And Bruce, thank you. Bruce has been a friend of mine for a long time. He's done an incredible job out here. But this is such a sad occasion. The only thing we can say is maybe something is going to be learned. We've got to toughen it up. We've got to strengthen it up. This should never be allowed. Things like this shouldn't take place, and to take place so often. So
what does he mean?
Thank you all for being here. It's an honor, and it's an honor for me to be here. This is a great family, the Diller family. I met the friends, and I met every one of them inside, and these are just incredible people that are just devastated.
All right, so he goes on with that. And then I wanted to play this. This is only 2 minutes and 55 seconds. Listen to this right here and watch the imagery, because what we are seeing is from fake stream, CIA infiltrated Operation Mockingbird, MK Ultra Media. They are the propaganda arm for the military industrial complex. Make no mistake about it. They colluded against us in the Gulf War. They colluded with us back in the 60s and the 70s with the Gulf of Tonkin episode, which got us even further involved in the Vietnam conflict. And then we find out later that the Gulf of Tonkin happened and there weren't North Vietnamese torpedo boats firing on the USS Maddox. But that was the whole reason that we escalated and sent all these troops and all this money into Vietnam. And 59,000 of our sons died for nothing because it was a banker war. They are ceaselessly lying to us. I have no love for fake stream propaganda media. So listen to this. Listen to this propaganda. Listen to this PR stunt.
Tragic death of Officer Jonathan Diller, killed in the line of duty yesterday when he was shot during a traffic stop in Far Rockaway.
Tonight, a community's anguish was clear to see as a 31-year-old husband and father's body arrived at a funeral home in Massapequa Park. And that's where Linda Schmidt is live.
Look at the... Are we going to see more of this? Let me see. Yeah, we're going to see more of this. Just watch the imagery, man. Think about, these cops aren't doing this for free. They're on the clock. Tax cattle are paying them to do what they're doing. And even if they're only involved in this for an hour, and you know it's going to be way longer than an hour, you are talking about hundreds and hundreds, if not millions, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars for this. But wait, there's an icing on the cake coming to this. And at the end of this, I'm going to show you exactly what it is. Hang on.
With the latest tonight, Linda.
Yeah, well, first of all, good evening to both of you. And this is the town where he lived with his young wife, Stephanie. He was young as well, 31 years old. And he also lived here with their 1-year-old son. Now, a viewing is going to be held for Officer Diller on Thursday and Friday. And then his funeral is scheduled for Saturday. A young wife and mother facing the
Look, just the manpower, the resources, the time, the pageantry. When Philip Brailsford offed Daniel Shaver, did Daniel Shaver get this kind of outpouring from law enforcement in apology for what their guy did to an innocent man? By the way, Daniel Shaver was white. Was there this kind of outpouring for Philando Castile? Philando Castile was black. Was there this kind of outpouring in Memphis when the Memphis Scorpion jump out crew did horrible things to a man leading to his expiration with Tyree Nichols? Was there this kind of outpouring from the Memphis Police Department for Tyree Nichols, who was the victim of one of their boys in blue, or 5 of their boys in blue? All black, by the way. No racism there. Wasn't racism going on there. It was 5 black police officers dogpiled a black victim and ended his life. But the time, the effort, the energy, the resources, the manpower, the taxpayer money just being flushed. And by the way, what happened? What about the crime that way? I mean, they're operating on a skeleton crew back at the, in all the precincts, the NYPD. Are they telling us by having all these cops show up that their job really ain't as necessary as they want us to believe? Because watch how many of them show up.
Excruciating pain of losing her husband, a hero New York City police officer. The body
Look at
of
this.
31-year-old
Look at all the people, firefighters, police officers, motorcycle cops, cruisers.
Sir Jonathan Diller arriving at Massapequa Funeral Home in Massapequa Park. A sea of blue saluting their fallen brother.
Let's go back to this.
Massapequa Park. A sea of blue.
A sea of blue. I would say if we don't need them on the street at this time, and somebody could go, well, a lot of those guys are probably off. Yeah, but they're on the clock right here. They're getting paid. Most of these guys don't even know who this guy is. They don't even know. They're just order followers just going on. He was part of the Masonic Lodge. Yeah, I've heard of him. I've never seen him. Or some people are like, I've never even heard of this guy, but I'm going to get paid. We get overtime for this.
Blue saluting their fallen brother. Officer Diller was with his partner about 5:45 last night in Far Rockaway, Queens. They approached a car that was illegally parked at a bus stop during a routine traffic stop in a busy area of Mott Avenue. Police say Officer Diller asked the suspect to get out of the car several times, but...
What? No, actually, the suspect was the passenger. They told the passenger to get out. Why not just tell the passenger driver, hey, can you roll down your window? Can you just, you're in a no parking zone. Could you just move? And they probably would have done it. And nobody would have died. Traffic law is not only more important to the Constitution of the Boys in Blue, it's even more important than their own lives. They're willing to they can be blown away at any second for traffic law. Who in the right mind go, where do I sign? I want to be a revenue generator for the state and make sure the corporate entity is well funded. Who in their right mind would do that? It's not heroic, by the way.
He refused, instead pulling out a gun and firing into Diller's stomach.
But why did he do that? What was Diller doing? We haven't seen the body cam. Could he have been could the cop have been a provocateur? Could he have been pushing this guy to the limit? Listen to the criminal activity that this, supposed gunman has committed in the past. This criminal, this lifelong criminal.
The bullet.
And this isn't me backing this Rivera guy. This isn't me backing the other guy. I'm just saying, well, what did the cop do to provoke this? I mean, something had to have happened. Buttons had to have been pushed, and we know that cops are not skilled in de-escalation practices, but rather are very proficient in escalation practices. What buttons did Diller push? What was he doing? What was he doing wrong? What got so bad that this guy decided, you know what? I think I want to ruin the rest of my life and put a slug in this guy.
Entering below his bulletproof vest. But even after getting shot, police say Officer Diller continued to try and gain control of the gun.
This is the kind of officer, although shot, still stayed in the fight and was trying to unarm the person that had just shot him.
Why would there have to be a fight? It was just a parking infraction. Hey, move along. But just say it in New York. Hey, dude, could you move along, buddy? Could you do me a favor? Just move along. I don't want no trouble from you. You don't want no trouble from me. Just move along. Get lost. I don't want to see you. Sure, no problem, officer. Bye. Done. He gets to go home to his family that night. But no, he had to tell the passenger to get out of the car for a traffic infraction?
As he was on the floor.
Police say the two suspects in the car are career criminals. The shooter, identified as 34-year-old Guy Rivera, with 21 prior arrests. The driver was arrested last April on a gun charge.
See, Guy Rivera was not the driver. He was the passenger. And they told the passenger to get out. Did you hear what the charge was? You would think, okay, 21 charges. Oh, man, this guy's a career criminal. Here, give us the worst charge. What is the worst charge? And mainstream media would have done it if they could have. Listen to what they said.
The driver was arrested last April on a gun charge.
One of the men.
A gun charge? Oh, was this arrest in North Korea where they're not allowed to have guns? Or did it happen in America where we have a Second Amendment where shall not be infringed is part of the edict that goes to the federal government? You shall not infringe on the person's right to keep and bear arms. That right to keep and bear arms shall not. What's a gun charge? By the way, New York has the second most stringent gun laws in the United States. How could this have possibly happened? You mean a criminal had a gun? How can that be? I thought guns were virtually illegal. Oh, that's right. They're not illegal for politicians. They're not illegal for law enforcement. And they're not illegal for criminals. They're only illegal for people who are stupid enough to abide by the law in New York. Because criminals ain't going to abide by the law. They'll have their guns. So now we've virtually assured through political parasite edicts that only two classes of people have guns. The law enforcement class and the street criminal class, which is messed up. Now, but listen to this. But wait, there's more.
Had been arrested on a gun charge in April 2023, the driver. He has more than...
On a gun charge, says criminal Eric Adams. He's a criminal. Which is funny because the cops are against Eric Adams' henchmen. One guy's name is Williams. They invited Eric Adams to the cop's funeral, but some of these other people who made these defund the police policies, they don't want them around. But they want criminal Eric Adams around?
20 priors.
Officer Diller leaves behind his wife and 1-year-old son. In his 3 short years with the NYPD, he had been recognized for his excellent police service several times.
Skunky says that cop went fishing in a dangerous pond.
He had been recognized for his excellent police service several times. He leaves behind a community that welcomed his presence in the neighborhoods he patrolled.
He was out there this summer helping us, and just a very, very helpful young man, very helpful officer.
Maybe he did nice things, but he was a part of an organized crime ring. Brian, how can you say that this guy, this nice guy, this hero was a part of an organized crime ring? I didn't say it. A commission did back in the 90s, and it's got nothing but worse, and we know that from the body and dash cams. But look at this from the Mullen Commission. I'm going to get back to this recording in a second because we haven't put the cherry on the top yet. Here is the conclusion of the Mullen Commission, which was an investigation into widespread police criminality within the NYPD. Look what it says. It says, and I quote from the conclusion of the Mullen Commission from 1994, it says, today's corruption is not the corruption of the Knapp Commission days. Corruption then was largely a corruption of accommodation of criminals and police officers giving and taking bribes, buying and selling protection. Corruption was then, in essence, consensual. Today's corruption in the NYPD is characterized by brutality, theft, abuse of authority, and active police criminality. And one has to wonder, was Officer Diller engaged in active police criminality, or maybe abuse of authority, maybe some brutality? We don't know because we don't have the body cam or the dash cam footage. And my bet is that they won't release it. Now, here's the cherry on top.
And he was for the community.
And by the way, a GoFundMe has been set up for Officer Diller's wife, Stephanie, and their 1-year-old son. So far, and this is less than 24 hours later, it has raised more than $200,000.
$200,000, you don't say. Oh, here's that GoFundMe. Huh. Now, I don't have a problem with people giving to what they think is a worthy cause in GoFundMe, but you have to understand, it can be proven through the Mullen Commission that any law enforcement agent is involved in an organization that was categorized by an official state commission as being engaged in active, continual, top to bottom, systemic police criminality. We know that not just because I said it, because I'm some kind of conspiracy theorist, but because the Mullen Commission testified to it in the 90s, the Knapp Commission testified to it in the 70s, and it looks like it has gotten worse and worse because they don't even care if they commit crimes on camera. So I don't have a problem with fundraising. It's just that you have to put 2 and 2 together. You have to use logic. You have to put emotions on the back burner and thin blue line and bootlicking and get that shoe polish off your tongue long enough to realize, wait a second, here is my reality. NYPD, which is the largest police force, not just in America, but in the world, boasting over 38,000 officers plus supportive staff. It's the biggest, largest law enforcement agency in the world, and it was defined by the Mullen Commission as engaging in active police criminality. Let me refresh the page. I pulled this up about an hour and 15 minutes ago. I'm going to go ahead and refresh the page. From this news report, it was up to $200,000. Now it's up to $626,737. Hitting the refresh button, it is now $642,346 raised for an individual who the Mullen Commission says is an organization that engages in brutality, theft, abuse of authority, and active police criminality. And I just think that truth is stranger than fiction. And I think that what's going on here is so frickin' unjust. And we need to call a spade a spade, a diamond, a heart, a club, a club. All right, what I'm going to do is, it's an hour and 9 minutes. I hate having like super long live streams. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this thing right here to the back burner. I noticed that a couple of channels have handled this. And what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to make this more directed. This is from the Jersey Watcher. And what I'll do is I'll put the link in the chat right now so you can watch it for yourself. But I plan to go through this. It's a 19-minute, almost 20-minute video where it shows that that police, specifically in the New Jersey area, but police from all over the place, like 1,000 of them, engaged in this. It's called street cop training. And the things that they were saying in this street cop training would almost hint at the validity and give another piece of vital evidence that cops are really, police force, law enforcement, whatever you want to call the profession, is somewhat synonymous with an organized crime ring. So I'm going to save that for later. I'll save that for another. I'll actually, you know what I can do? I can produce that as just a regular video, because I would rather edit that down to make it more something that can be shareable to the masses, because I think a lot of people need to see this. And if you haven't already, take a look at it. Hats off to Jersey Watcher for exposing this right here, because I would not have heard about it. I've seen stuff like this before, but just to hear them reiterate it in plain language about how much they hate the people they're claiming to protect and serve, it just drives it home that much further. We all actually need to refresh our brains on how horrific our reality actually is. Guys, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining this live stream. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification icon, give it a thumbs up, share it with everybody you know. Remember, we got a brand new design in the store. It's 3 things you don't mess with: my family, my freedom, and my guns. And of course, we have, if a law is unjust, a man is not only right to disobey it, he's obligated to do so. If you pick up a shirt, you support the channel. If you want to support the channel further, all the links are in the description below. But more importantly, understand that the day that they call exposing criminality a criminal action, you can know for a fact you are being ruled by criminals. Freedom is now and will always be dangerous. The only thing more dangerous is not having freedom. I will see you guys in the next live stream. Please like this video. Please share this video. Subscribe to the channel if you think it's worth it. And guys, just stand fast on freedom, because there's some psychopath out there somewhere, some parasitic psychopath who wants to take more and more of your freedoms away, until eventually we're living in 15-minute cities and we got zero freedom at all. Even perceived freedom would be gone. So I'll see you guys in the next live stream. Take care.